Hello, hello, hello. This is Willie Cartwright from Save to Sane. Hope all of you are doing well out there today. Uh, you adjust my seat. I feel like I'm a little low. Okay, that's better. I guess. Yeah. Again, this is Willie Cartwright from Save to Sane. We here for our every other week podcast, where we discuss issues related to organized religion. Sometimes we get into some politics because there is a connection directly or indirectly. Sometimes we get into some other social economic issues, but everything that we talk about is either directly or indirectly related to our primary subject, and that subject is organized religion. um, and so glad to have all of you here. Hope that you are enjoying your day. Hope that the weather is well wherever you are tuning in. Thank you for those who are tuning in live. And as always, I ask you to send me a message. Let me know that you're here. Say hello. Give comments so we can discuss these things. So I certainly appreciate those who do. Those of you who are not able to join us live, appreciate that you will listen to the replay or catch this at a later time. But thank you so much for that. Please remember, what's going on, Mo Wheat? Glad to have you. Appreciate it. Please remember to subscribe, and if you haven't, to like this. If you haven't, tell all your friends and your enemies both. The podcast, the channel is growing, and we want it to continue to grow. As always, let me start off by saying thank you to a couple of people, and then I'll make a couple of quick announcements, and then we'll get right into today's topic. But again, as I always do, is a thank you to Taisha Essex. She's out there somewhere listening. I need to check on her. I haven't seen her on social media in a minute. I have to send her a message. So hopefully everything is all right. Hopefully everything is all right with her. She's back in my home state of Georgia, so hope everything is all right. Taisha, if you're out there, if you're listening, I'm saying what's up, what's going on. Hope you and the family are doing well. And secondly, like I said, thank you and hello to my wife, who is a huge support, my biggest supporter, as she says. And I certainly appreciate everything that she does to support me on this mission that I am on. So, again, thank you to all of you for being here. A couple of quick announcements, a couple of things that I'm doing. I will be, as I do every summer, I will take the next couple of months off. Be back sometime in mid-August, I believe. I do a lot of traveling during the summer. I have some conventions to attend and to participate in. Um, so I just think it's a perfect time for me to take some time off. What's going on, Sharon? Glad to have you. So I always take some time off during the summer to sort of regroup, um, to recalibrate and come back stronger in the fall in August. So we'll be doing that. This will be the last show until August. So certainly appreciate those of you who are sticking by me and still there, and look forward to us coming back in August. But yeah, so we'll be doing that. One of the things that I have to do during the summer is I have to attend a conference. I think I mentioned to you guys that I'm on the board of Secular Student Alliance, and it's basically an organization that supports university and college secular organizations. And so I think it is extremely important that we support those organizations. And so I'm on the board of directors for that organization. It is a national organization, and we have a conference, and I think that conference is in July. My wife and I will be doing some traveling out of the country as well during the summer. Her birthday is next month, so we'll be doing that. Um, so yeah, we will do that. Congratulations, Sharon. All right. So was this a master's degree, or what type? Sharon said, for those of you who don't know, Sharon said that she graduated Friday, so she should be here more when I come back in the fall. So certainly appreciate that. I love to see you, Sharon. But congrats, big congrats on that. And so yeah, so as I was saying, so we'll be doing some traveling. We'll be doing something. Actually, we'll have to go to Atlanta next weekend for a few days, back to my adopted home state and home city. So we'll do that. But here in Henderson, Nevada, it is beautiful. It's sunny. It's probably in the 90s, but it feels great. There's always a breeze. So I certainly appreciate that. And so again, so we're going to be doing some traveling during the summer. So we need to take that time off to sort of regroup. We got a couple other places that we're going, and then we'll come back stronger. So yeah, so we will do that as well. And so yeah, so that's where we are. Another BS. Sharon says she has another Bachelor of Science degree. This one is in nutrition. Fabulous. We need that in our community. Sharon, I would encourage you if you haven't already or you don't already. Spread that information, spread that knowledge. You may even think about doing a podcast if you're not already doing one. Um, my wife is she's into health and fitness big time. I told you she's a vegan. And she was a nurse, so she keeps me in shape, or at least relatively in shape, as much as she can do. But we eat relatively healthy. She eats extremely healthy because she's a vegan, but she's helped me a lot, and so I think that is very much needed in our community. People who understand and acquire the knowledge to help our people when it comes to nutrition. So absolutely. So congrats, awesome on that. And so yeah, so that's what we will be doing. So let's get into the topic. So today's topic is how do secularists navigate life in a theocratic society? Taisha is trying to get me to do a You should. Absolutely, you should. And you know what, Taisha, and you probably know this, but Taisha is very healthy as well. She's on the health kick as well. I think you and her would be great together. Some of her stuff on social media is hilarious but informative. She gives great information about health and nutrition. So I think that would be awesome. I would tune in for that one as well. I think that would be awesome. But but our topic: how do secularists navigate life in a theocratic society? Um, he encouraged it. Great. So yeah, so we're in a what you call it a theocratic society or a pseudo theocratic society. We're in an environment here in the U.S. where um, if the religious right, the extreme religious right, had their way, all of us would be following laws and norms established by their religion and their religious beliefs and their interpretation of religion. And I think that that is dangerous. But we are in the midst of a country. We all live in this. If those of us who live in this country, the U.S., we know that this is a country where, on paper, there is supposed to be a separation of church and state. But we know that in practice, that's not always the case. We've seen even before the current administration, but certainly with this current administration, we see more of an effort from evangelicals, the far right, to push laws and norms and behavior that they feel is more suiting, more moral, based on their religious beliefs and their interpretation. And what is ironic about that, and this is just in my limited experience, I have some friends who are Muslim, who are Islam, and some of them side with Christians in this. And so that lets you know that uh, the Abrahamic religions, which include Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, are the same side, the different side of a three-headed coin. Um, we talk about how extreme uh, Islam is, and especially in those countries where Islam is the national religion. We see and hear some extreme behavior, some extreme punishment for things that are relatively mundane. We see the suppression of women. And so we look at that from this standpoint, from this vantage point, and say, wow, that's kind of extreme. But if you really take the time and really look and really think about and understand what extreme evangelicals would like to do, the far right, and especially those part of the Christian nationalism movement, it is not much different than what we see or what we hear in a lot of those Middle Eastern countries as well. And so they run parallel in some of their beliefs and some of their beliefs about women and some of their beliefs about suppression and oppression of others. And so we're not that much of difference. What's going on, Texas? God is glad to have you. And so what I wanted to talk about today, or what I will talk about today, is how do we as secularists navigate in this type of environment? Um, and let me be clear: we have the right in this country to not be religious. We have the right in this country to not, at least right now, we do to not have to subscribe to certain religious beliefs and practices without worrying about being incarcerated or even put to death. There are countries, not just in the Middle East, but some countries in Africa, that if you violate some of their norms and laws that are established because of their faith and religion, you can be jailed, and you are jailed, incarcerated, and you are and can be put to death. And so I want to make that clear. I don't want anyone to come on here and say, well, you're comparing us to Middle Eastern countries and some African countries where Islam faith requires that these people be incarcerated or jailed for things that doesn't happen, that we don't do here. Absolutely. And so I would never say that. However, we are increasingly seeing those on the far right push and advocate for laws that infringe on our behavior and that infringe on our rights to do the things that we want to do, and they guise these things in put these things in the guise of religion. And in their opinion, they believe this society would be much more moral and a better society if all of us, even those of us who are not part of their religion and faith, um, uh, became or part of these laws that we have to abide by these laws. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry that we have to abide by a lot of these laws that they're creating based on their faith. But thankfully, we don't have to, at least not right now. Part of what I do in those in this space as well is that we push back and we fight back so that we're never in that position that we have to do that. And I think for many, even for many of those who are part of these religions, um, if this was to come to pass and we begin to operate like some of the Middle Eastern countries and some of the African countries, some of these people would not be happy either, even though the laws would stem from their religion. They wouldn't be happy either because they're a lot of these people are not really aware of all that goes on and all that is entailed in some of these laws and regulations and norms that are pushed by these people who are extreme fanatics in their religion. Keisha, what's going on? Glad to have you. Um, and so again, let's talk about how we navigate this. And so, why did this come about? Well, I've been thinking about this for a while. In my 10 years um, post Christianity, of course, I've had to deal with, given my age and where I'm from in this country, the southern U.S., friends, parents, those around me, my community. Many of them, the vast majority of them, are still devout Christians. And so, as a person who left the faith, who left organized religion, and who stopped believing, I've had to navigate through these things. And what's made worse is that I am an outspoken non-believer, and so I have decided that I am not one who's going to hide my religious beliefs or non-belief. And so to a certain extent, I have become a target to some of those people who I consider to be friends and associates, and even those who I don't know clearly, and that is to be expected. So, how do I and others like me navigate in these spaces? Right. So this came about. I'm part of a speaking organization here in Nevada, and it's the same organization in Atlanta. And one of the things that we do when we meet every once a month, and a speaker comes in, and we get information about really growing your business or creating a business as a speaker, the business side of it. Um, and so I'm a part of this organization called the National Speakers Association. And so uh, during our time that we come together and we sort of network with each other, uh, we oftentimes will ask each other, well, what's your speaking topic? And this past Saturday, a gentleman asked me about my speaking topic, and I gave him my standard answer. I said, well, I speak about the dangers of organized religion. And he paused, but it wasn't anything, that I got offended by. And we continued to talk and talk. And I went on to explain to him that it really was about creating a safe space for those of us who decided we're no longer part of organized religion, or was never was part of organized religion. Create a safe space so we can all come together, figure out a way that we can work with theists, believers, and just create a better society as a whole. And after that, he said to me, he said, "Well, I got offended." No, he said, "I became defensive." That's the word he used. So I became defensive early on, not because I'm religious, because I'm not religious at all. As a matter of fact, I'm not a believer. This is the guy who's talking to me. He said, "But you start off by saying you talk or you speak about the dangers of organized religion." And in his opinion, this was his, and he was really nice about it. He said, "I think you should rephrase that to where it's something that is less antagonistic," because I talked about being in a lot of these debates and these dialogues where they become antagonistic with believers. And so he said, "I think if you rephrased how you um, talk about what you speak about and let it be less antagonistic on the title, then I think you would draw more people in and you would have less of those issues." And I took the information, and as I thought about it later on, I said, you know what, that's a solid point. And so I was appreciative of him. And so I've been working on a way to rephrase what I speak about, and now I'm leaning toward more about how can theists and non-believers coexist, and some other things related to that without the title being, I guess, as offensive. And those of you who know me, I've come a long way. I've started off been really, really offensive. Those of you who follow me on social media, you may notice that I post less things that Christians or believers consider to be offensive. Although I haven't stopped altogether, I'm sort of taking a break from it right now. And at any time, I could post something that upsets them. But anyway, and so that got me to thinking. So I said, so how can I better navigate in this society where religion affects all of us and where everybody talked about religion? And so when again, after speaking with this gentleman, I asked him at the end, I said, "So are you religious?" And no, actually, I'm not religious. He said, "But my entire family is." I grew up in the Midwest. He was an older guy. And he said, "But I know I can see how they would find that offensive because you're introducing this as the dangers of organized religion." Now, keep in mind, I know for a fact that organized religion is dangerous and has been dangerous for this society and societies across the world since its inception. Trust me on that. But I do understand that if I'm going to continue this work and do meaningful work, I may have to figure out a better way of engaging with those who believe differently than I believe, so that we can have meaningful conversation, and hopefully out of that, there is some meaningful and substantive work that comes out of that, because that's, at the end of the day, that's really what I'm trying to do. Let me take a break. Amanda said, I'm a flight back to Minneapolis, and I refuse to pay $8 for a 52-minute flight. I'll catch the replay when I land. No problem, but glad to have you, Amanda. And yeah, certainly listen when you get an opportunity. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, so as I was saying, how do we navigate those of us who either was part of organized religion and left, those of us who have friends and families and loved ones who are still part of organized religion, and even for those of us who've never been part of organized religion but is all around us, right? How do we navigate in this society? And so what I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is, how do we navigate? And this is me sort of throwing out some points. Clearly, I'm not the expert on this. Clearly, there are people who've been doing this a whole lot longer. But just to give you some ways in which I engage and how I navigate these things, and I think maybe can be helpful to some of us. So first, dealing with family, and our families are, all of our families are different. Some of us have family members who are very devout, who are in a religious silo. Everything that they do and talk about and experience is centers around their belief system, whether it's whether it's Jewish, whether it's Christianity or Islam or any other religion for that matter. So we have those people who are extreme. And so it runs the gamut in most of our families. Fortunate for me, my family situation is really complex. I've simplified it by not really being a part of most of it, but it is a very, very complex situation. It take me 30 minutes to explain it all. But to make a long story short, needless to say, I only have about 3 or 4 family members that I engage with on a regular basis. My mother passed in 2017. She was the extreme one about her faith, right? Especially, she wasn't extreme with me. She was extreme in her behavior and her belief system. She sort of held me in a sort of a reverence. She kind of always did up until I told her I was no longer religious. But yeah, but she passed away, and so that left basically my sister, my niece, my nephew, and a cousin who's part of that complexity that I talked about with family. And so we don't engage very much. My cousin, who used to be when I met him, he was Muslim. Um, so now I know he's no longer Muslim. I know his wife is fairly religious, devout. He's not so much. We kind of joke about it at times. My sister, who is I would consider devout to a certain extent. We just kind of don't talk about it. Again, we may make jokes about it, laugh about it sometimes, but we kind of have this unspoken rule that we don't embark on each other's territory when it comes to that. If she posts something on social media about her faith, her pastor, whatever, I won't publicly say anything about it. And the same thing for me when I post stuff. She won't say anything publicly against it. She's actually come to my defense at times because that's the kind of sister she is. She loves me dearly. I love her dearly, and so we don't engage. But that's not the same. And not to say that's the same thing for everyone. And so what I've learned is that if it's not a huge issue, and it's not difficult for me because I spent 40 years part of this, right? And so when I go to family events and there's grace that's being said, it doesn't bother me. I lower my head and give them the respect. If they're praying, I sort of I bow my head, and I know this is going to be over in a matter of seconds, right? If they engage in a conversation about religion, most of my family know that that's not where I am, and so we don't really have that. But people, it being part of their DNA, will oftentimes speak about it without even knowing it, subconsciously talk about it. Um, but I found that if it's not that big of an issue, I just can kind of ignore it most of the time, and that's what I do with family from that standpoint. A couple of comments. Mo Wheat, what's going on? Glad to have you. The dangers of anti-acceptance, the dangers of a closed society, the dangers of unmovable beliefs. I like that, Mo. I appreciate that. I am going to steal some of those. The dangers of unmovable beliefs. I like that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Texas Goddess says, Willie, I consider myself a free thinker, which is a non-conformist space. True. Please look up definition. I think you would potentially use that term, which is non-confrontational. So as far as titles and terms that I used, Texas Goddess, I'm with you on that. I have used everything from um, free thinker. I don't know if you read. There's a book out by Christopher Cameron. He's a professor at school in North Carolina. But he wrote the book about Black free thinkers, and it's a history of Black free thinkers going all the way back to Frederick Douglass, who we know was a Christian minister, but he challenged the normative ways of how, at that time, the society practiced Christianity. And so, all the way into people like um, Hurston and some of the Black Panther members who were not religious at all. And so, and everyone in between. And so, it's a great book. It's called African American Free Thinkers, I think, by Christopher Cameron. You can look it up. It's a fantastic book. So, I've used that term. I've used secularists. I've used humanists. I've used secular humanists. I've used um, anti-theist. I've used non-believer, and so just a variety of terms. And again, I've done this in an effort to try not to offend those around me who may be Christian, because I know that there are a couple of terms that they become really defensive of. One is agnostic, and then the top one that they really despise and hate is the word atheist. And so it is but it is difficult for a person in my position in this space who is a forerunner, a front runner of this space, who is out here publicly. Well, I'm not going to say difficult because I really don't consider myself an atheist in just the raw sense, only because I don't believe that any of us know for sure, and I don't believe that any of us are capable of knowing for sure. So some people say, well, that will put you in the agnostic category. However, the reason why I don't consider myself an agnostic, um, most likely, is because I don't believe in any of the current gods and deities that we have. Again, I leave open the possibilities that I could be wrong, but I don't. And so I always begin by saying I don't like labels. I don't like the titles or the terms, but I know people have to put you in some kind of box or label you some kind of way so they can understand or decide how they want to treat you, right? And certainly being in the atheist box makes them treat you a completely different way than maybe, say, a free thinker. A free thinker is a flexible term, it's a fluid term, it's a term that is more palatable to those in the religious community. And so I do like that term, free thinker. And so also I do things and I said things at times uh, for effect, right? If I'm in a cordial and a non-antagonistic conversation or dialogue, then I will freely use the word um, uh, um, I would freely use the word free thinker. If I am trying to get a point across, then I will use the word non-believer, right? Um, and I've been called an atheist by some, and I don't correct them unless they ask me, "Are you an atheist?" I think you're an atheist, and then we have the discussion. But if they're just throwing out the term, "You're an atheist," and I'm in the middle of a conversation or a debate or a dialogue or a presentation, I won't correct them for effect, right? For effect, I won't correct them because I want them to feel it all. I don't want to sugarcoat it because I am very much against the way that we currently practice organized religion. I am against the dangers and the harms that organized religion has done and continue to do to us as a collective society. And so I want them to understand that. Texas God has also said, using the word free thinker is your description of what you do was wise suggested. Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, absolutely. It is absolutely a term that is descriptive of what I do. And so yeah, certainly appreciate that. Yeah. And I think that that is a term that we can probably use to bring more people who are maybe in the middle, who are maybe on this journey, make them feel more comfortable. Because at the end of the day, when you start reading and you start objectively looking at things and analyzing things, you are a free thinker at that point. So absolutely. Texas Goddess said, "I support you saying whatever words you like. I do agree with the brother with using a positive term in order to bring people closer to what they will hear and what you say." Absolutely, and that took me a while, Texas Goddess, because I started out very, very, very bitter and antagonistic. But then I say, if I'm going to do this work in earnest, and I'm going to do this work for a while, I need to find a way. I need to find a way to be less antagonistic. I need to find a way to be more open and more inviting so that people can hear the message. And so when he said this was a person who really didn't know me. We had seen each other, but this is our first time really talking to each other. And so when he mentioned that, I got home. I said, you know what? That's a good point. And I think even the next time I see him next month, I'm going to tell him that it was a good point, and I appreciate that, and that has really helped me. But it also allowed me to do some other things to maybe um, redefine some stuff I had on my website with trying to engage in corporate speeches because a lot of the stuff I had was very antagonistic to believers. And so if I can rephrase it, which is what I'm working on right now, it certainly should help with me getting more corporate speaking gigs as opposed to just speaking at organizations. But yeah, so let's carry on. So I certainly appreciate that Texas Goddess and Mo Wheat. That really helped. Let's carry on. So we talked about dealing with friends. I mean, you talked about dealing with family. I think I may have told you guys the story when I first when maybe I was 5 or 6 years into it. Um, After I left organized religion, my wife and I had some friends who had been atheists most of their life, and they were African American atheists, and they were open, at least had been open about them being atheists. And I told you they lived in a very conservative area in Georgia, outside of Atlanta, in the suburbs, very conservative. And I even interviewed her for a project I did at school when I was working on my master's degree. Um, but as we engaged in conversations, I asked her one day, "How do you and your husband, you guys have 4 kids together, a couple of them are in high school or whatever. How do you guys engage and navigate this space? You're in a rural area outside of Atlanta in the deep South, and you're an atheist." And so her, and even and she mentioned this with family, her family understood what she was. She just didn't bring it up. She didn't talk about it, and she kind of became more closeted about it over time. And so for most people, and this is ironic, for most people who are non-believers, who are free thinkers, for most people who are not involved in this space and being an advocate, an open advocate, they're pretty quiet and pretty silent about their disbelief. And that makes perfect sense because um, as as we believe that believers shouldn't lead with their faith, we shouldn't lead with our non-faith, right? We should be judged as human beings, regardless of what we believe in or not. Unfortunately for us, most believers lead with their faith. It is the first thing, it is the most important thing, it is priority one when discussing who they are as a person. Um, and so there's another reason why I have so much pushback against it is because we oftentimes see here, no matter where we are, no matter what platform we're on, no matter where we are in this society, we oftentimes hear and see believers who lead with their faith. And the conversation could be about anything. It could be something as mundane as what we're having for dinner, or as elaborate as talking about religion in general. But so yeah, but so that was her way of dealing with it, and also dealing with friends. Friends is the same. It's almost like family. Um, I think there is, because your friend circle is generally larger than your family circle. Your family circle, in most cases, at least for me, I do have more friends who are free thinkers. They may be closeted free thinkers, but they are free thinkers. And because I've done what I've done, and I'm doing what I'm doing, they have come to me. They have DM'd me. We've had private conversations where they've expressed the fact that they are free thinkers and have been free thinkers for a while. And so I can engage with them when I post something on social media. It depends on how antagonistic the conversation becomes. Some of them will come over and make comments in my defense, and that's fine. I certainly appreciate that. Some don't, for obvious reasons. I mean, for a variety of reasons, I should say. And I have a friend who literally works for a church, and that is his sole source of income. But he at a minimum is questioning his faith. And so he told me, he said, "I can't do this openly because I will lose my source of income." And I perfectly understand that. That is perfectly understandable. I have a friend in Atlanta who is an attorney, and she was really big in the movement, this secular movement, many years ago. And she's not from the South originally, but she moved to the South. She moved to Atlanta, and she realized that it would be more difficult for her to get business and to practice her work if she was an open atheist, if she acknowledged the fact that she was an atheist. And so she became closeted about that to family, I mean to friends, and on her job. And so again, these are ways that people navigate um, this society when they are non-believers, because especially living in the South and in the Midwest, it is a major thing. Your faith, your belief system, it is a major thing. And so I don't get angry at all that these people are still closeted about their beliefs. I certainly understand it, and I appreciate it. So that's how some people deal with it. They don't tell anyone. They're careful about who they talk to. I have another friend. I won't call him a friend, but he's an associate. It's someone I've been trying to get onto this show. He is big in the movement. He's done a lot of stuff. He's open about his disbelief, but he has to be careful in his travels and what he's doing because he said to me, and he and I had lunch once. He said to me that he's gotten death threats, serious death threats, because he's on that level where he's putting out public information against organized religion, and he's done it for some time. Even with our meeting, our lunch meeting, he sort of had to go through channels in order for us to meet. The person who introduced us sort of had to vouch for me, so forth and so on. So again, I understand that. But this is part of living in this society where, yes, there's supposed to be separation of state and church with the founding documents, but in practice, in practice, we see many in this society who are trying to push um, these norms and laws based on their interpretation of their religious beliefs. And so we all have to be careful and we all have to figure out how do we do that. And so again, jobs, even if those of you who are familiar with Dan Barker with Freedom from Religion Foundation, it is a large secular organization. Part of that organization, there's a organization called the Clergy Project. And what this is individual pastors and clergy members who are non-believers, who are free thinkers, but still work every day in that space, right? They're pastors, they're preachers, they're member of clergy, but they can't leave that space because it's their whole source of income, it's their identity. And so Dan Barker formed this organization, the Clergy Project, and there are hundreds and hundreds of members. So think about this: there are hundreds and hundreds, probably even thousands of members of this organization. These are people who get up on Saturdays or Sundays or whatever they, depending on their religion, they're out front talking about things that they no longer believe in. But they have to because of their income, because of risk of being ostracized, because of the risk of losing family, relationships, jobs, friends, all of that. Um, and we've seen practical examples of this. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Carlton Pearson. Carlton Pearson was a very, very famous pastor who learned and upon some of the great televangelists in this country. And after many, many years of building a huge following and a massive mega church, he came to the realization that this whole hell and heaven thing was not what he had been taught. And he became a person who was described as being open to all, including those in the LGBT community. And so he went public with that, with all of that. Um, and consequently, he lost his church. He got kicked out of the church organization, the larger body. Uh, and he lost pretty much everything. But he had to live his mind. He had to live his true self. He died either last year or year before last, um, and it was posted on social media, and somebody posted it, and I found out that an associate that I know out in California happened to be his cousin, and his cousin said, and his cousin was very devout. His cousin was a pastor as well, very devout, and his cousin said a bunch of harmful things about Carlton Pearson after he died, during the funeral, after the funeral, and all of that. And he and I sort of had a dialogue about that on social media. And so became one of those things, yeah. And so we've seen this practically happen. We've seen people who've tried to navigate this system, this society of theocracy, but then decided that they had to be true to themselves, and they paid the price for that. Henry Mars, what's going on? Glad to have you with us. Atheist persecution. Well, that is really what you're starting to see more of, especially with this administration. Right now, it's in most cases it's sort of subtle, but it is getting. I think I said this before. I remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you never heard a pastor from the pulpit speaking about atheists, right? Never talked about it because at that point, we as non-believers or free thinkers or atheists, whatever we call ourselves, we were of no threat whatsoever. Or at least they didn't view us as a threat. Fast forward for the last 5 years or so, and then with the incoming administration, um, we have become a threat to them. And I think it's because what they've realized is that the way that they have been continuing to grow, and I said they, I mean the church, is through the young members, young people. And what they're starting to see is that many people from millennials and younger are stopping going have stopped going to church as much. There are statistics out there. There's Pew Research that shows all of that, and so now they're afraid that these individuals are going to turn either to and keep in mind now, if for most extreme evangelicals, if you're not Christian, they consider you to be atheist as well. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you're Jewish in some cases, or whatever other practice you may have. So it's just not the fact that you don't believe in any deity or God, it's the fact that you don't believe in their deity or God that places you in their mind in the box of being a non-believer or an atheist. And so they're terrified of that because so many young people have stopped going to church, have denounced religion, organized religion, for a whole host of reasons. And so now the secular movement, we've become a threat. And so now you hear pastors and other people in the church refer to us in a derogatory manner. Yes, you do have atheist prosecution. Atheist persecution now. And so it is something that is growing, and I predict that it will continue to grow. And so yeah, Texas Goddess says, do they have to or they choose to stay undercover in the church? Yes, consequences for leaving are great, but we still have choices. Many people choose to live authentic, authenticity. So, Texas, I understand what you're saying, and clearly we all have choices, and they absolutely have a choice. But I think what they do is they weigh the options of, do I stay closeted? Do I stay not living authentically who I am? Or do I come out and live authentically who I am and risk losing a lot of the things that I have, whether it be my job, whether it be my relationship, whether it be my relationship with family? And so I'm not in a position, at least I don't want to be the person to scrutinize them about those decisions that they make, because those are personal decisions. I am not in their position to make those choices. But yeah, but we all have choices, and I think and so here's another thing. So what I do, part of what I do, Texas Goddess, is that I work really, really hard to make um, free thought, free thinkers, secularism a part of normal society. Because I believe that if we can do that, if we can make um, secularism, however we frame it or however we define it, if we can make it more normal, if we can make it um, more acceptable, then more people will make the choice to come out and say, okay, listen, I am a non-believer, I am a free thinker, I am an atheist, I am a whatever, and I have been for a while. And then there will be a larger community to embrace them, a larger community that they can run to and be a part of after they lose everything from the religious community that many of them will lose. One of the things that I talk about oftentimes when we talk about um, from a fantasy standpoint of abolishing organized religion, which it won't happen anytime soon, especially not in my lifetime. One of the things that we really have to think about is the social aspect of not having religion, right? If this was to happen, and so that is a serious issue because many people rely on religion, organized religion, uh, for the social aspect, and so along with the practical things of losing family, jobs, friends, all of that, there's the social issue of being ostracized from your community because you're no longer a believer, and especially in communities that are extremely devout collectively, like the African American community, but there's some others as well. And so, yeah, it is difficult. Texas Goddess says, I support them in doing what is best for them. I also believe that there are options that are hard. I get it. I appreciate it. And you said the magic word. There are options. Those options are difficult, right? Those options are hard. And so those individuals have to make those decisions at some point. It would certainly help those of us who are open. It certainly would help the movement. It certainly would help us to move further a lot quicker in this if others were to come out. Um, and I think one of the things that I found when I became open about my non-belief is you'll be surprised the number of people in your circle who think the same way you think and just hadn't said anything for reasons that we talked about earlier, reasons that we have addressed earlier. And so, yeah, it would be absolutely. But again, these people are making individual decisions based on their specific situation, and I'm just here as part of this space to support those decisions. Create a space that if they did make the decision to come out, here's something that you can come to. Here's a space. Here's a podcast. I'm an individual that may have other resources that I can direct you in to help you with overcoming what you're dealing with. And so, yeah, Henry Morris says, unfortunately, in this country, they might consider non-evangelical Christians terrorists. They are currently going after black churches because those churches are social justice warriors. Yeah, and so, Henry, I think one of the things I mentioned when I first started today on this program was I talked about that there is a direct connection between religion and politics, religion and socioeconomic issues, and certainly religion and social justice issues. And so, I think one of the things you're going to see in the fall from me is an expanded um, viewpoint where we talk about religion, but we also talk about it in the context of politics more so, and in the context of social justice more so, and in the context of social economics, because I certainly believe that it is all connected. And so, yeah, and so you're right. And so what happens, Henry, is that um, non-evangelical Christians um, in the black church becomes target because for Christian nationalists and those the hardcore right wing evangelicals, it is not just the religion, right? The religion is a tool. As you guys have heard me say this a million times. Westernized Christianity is the tool of white supremacy. Is a religious tool of white supremacy. And so what you really have is white Christian nationalists, uh, aka white supremacists, who are saying, without saying it, are saying that, okay, we want a country that's based on our way of living, our culture. And if you are going to exist in this, you will assimilate to the way we do things, right? That is what they're saying to those of us that are not white. And so they're saying the laws, the foundation, the formula that we're using for your assimilation, for you to know if you're wrong or right, is based on what our interpretation of Christianity is. And so if you're not following their interpretation of Christianity, then you're not assimilating right with them. And so now you become even more so of the enemy. Keep in mind that regardless of how much you assimilate, if you're not white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Christian, you will never be fully accepted if that's what you're trying to do. But they will, and we've seen this in large majority white mega churches that have black members that come in. They will allow you to come in. They will tolerate you. I've seen this firsthand. I've seen this personally. I've attended a number and been a member of a number of majority white mega churches that after a period of time became almost half black or even a majority black. And I've seen what has happened. And so I understand this thing that's going on. Henry also said that mega evangelicals, mega evangelicals, that's how I call those mega pastors, they tried to force the election a mega pope, but they failed. Yep, absolutely. And so again, this is again, understand this, that religion is a tool. It's a tool for them. We, as African Americans, and maybe some others, maybe some Hispanics to a certain extent, and others, we literally look at religion for what we believe that it's supposed to be. We try to take all of the good out of religion and live by that. I mean, it is an earnest effort on our behalf to say that this is what we follow. And if you, for most African Americans, we see life through the prism of our faith in a good way, from the standpoint of and so it is hard for us to see that it is being used as a tool by white supremacy because they will hit us with all of the words. All of the propaganda and the buzzwords that sound great, and tell us that we are Christian first, and so we should be following these things. And so when we as African Americans are fighting against abortion rights or right to choose because we believe that it's not biblical, when we're fighting against the LGBT community because we believe that it is not biblical, when we're fighting against single parents, and all the other things, all the other social issues that we fight against, simply because we think that it is not right according to the Bible. It allows the white supremacists, it allows the Christian nationalists to use us to a certain extent. And it's hard for us to see that because so many of us are blinded by religion, organized religion. And so we really believe that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And I'm not, from a religious standpoint, that sounds great. But I want us to open our eyes. I want us to be thinkers. I want us to do an assessment. Listen, you can still be religious. You can still be a Christian. You can still be a Muslim, Jewish, whatever you decide to be. But just be cautious of what's going on. Just be conscious of how this religion is being used. And listen, and I see many Christians that I know that are conscious to what's going on. I mean, they are politically conscious, they are socially conscious, they are culturally conscious. However, I do see a small but a growing number of those individuals who are blinded by religion and organized religion and following the interpretation of the religion as opposed to they're doing what's right for their seat in heaven as opposed to what is right for us as a collective group, opposed to what's right for us as a collective society. And so that to me is dangerous. And so yeah, and so finally, and so we talked about social media. And so one of the things I said that we can do as we navigate this life in a theocratic society is get involved more with organizations, um, free thought organizations. There are a tremendous amount of them out there. You don't see them as much. They don't get the notoriety. They don't have the budgets. They're certainly not getting funding from the government, especially not this administration. Um, but there's a host of organizations. If you're interested in becoming part of one or working with one, please reach out to me. I can send you a whole list of those organizations. As I mentioned earlier, I'm part of the Secular Student Alliance. I've spoken to the American Humanist Association. There's Court about the Organization for Religious Trauma. There is Sunday Assembly, which is is a sort of, it is a non-religious Sunday gathering, and they have these gatherings and these uh, segments of organizations throughout the country. There's Atheist Roundtable. It's a host of organizations, and there are even some sort of pseudo-religious organizations that sort of mimic religion, but they are open. They are not set on this one way of doing things. And so there's many of those organizations out there. So I would just encourage all of us, those of us who are in this movement and see what's going on and who want to be active. There's a number of ways to become active. There's the Black non-believers in Atlanta and Mandisa Thomas. There are other chapters throughout the country. She just happens to be in Atlanta, but there are other chapters throughout the country that you can become involved in. And so there's a whole host of them. LMA, what's going on? Is that you said there's a difference between a religious person and a theocrat. And so yeah, of course, But here's the thing, and this is the more radical side of me, or the more extreme side of me. Um, I am not at this point convinced that we in the secular community can do the things that we need to do without calling out all of it, right? Um, I challenge all of my religious friends, all of my good Christians, as I call them, because I think that they need to be doing more to fight Christian nationalism, to fight what we're seeing as a pseudo theocratic society. Uh, and so I'm not letting the good Christians off the hook in this. Um, and so, yeah, so where I certainly agree with you, I am not making that separation because I think that the good Christians, should be doing more in this battle because Christian nationalism, for one, is a common enemy of all of us. It is not in the best interest of good Christians to be up under the thumb of uh, a Christian nationalist regime. Not at all. And so hopefully the good Christians see that, and they start to do more to combat that. I know there's some organizations, there are some Christian organizations. There's actually a Christian organization called Christians Against Christian Nationalism. I spoke with someone, one of their representatives a while ago. I need to reach back out to him because he was going to for us to do something together. And so there are other organizations out there. And then obviously there are individual Christians or religious people, whether they be Muslims, Jewish, any other religion, that are just really, really good people. And they are opposed to many of the things that we're opposed to. And so we just need them to have a larger voice and speak up more. Sharon F. said it was amazing that when the slave Bibles were discovered, at how many Black people are still trying to follow the different versions of the colonizers' Bible. Yeah, it is a generational brainwashing. It is a generational indoctrination. It is really difficult to break free. There's a fear element in it. There's the element of that this is part of who we are as a culture. And if you somehow go against that, you're somehow not part of the culture. I've heard that. I've heard that secularism, free thought, um, atheism, or being an agnostic is somehow not black, that it is a white person's thing. And so I've heard all of this. And so when you mix all of that up into this tasteful soup that we have, you get people who are following this blindly, and you get those of us who've managed to get out of it. And then the further we are removed from it, we look back on it and we become disgusted and amazed how people can still be part of it. But what I always try to do is try to remember when I was a part of it, how it was so ingrained in me and those around me. And so that helps with having some empathy for those involved. But I am pretty much all out of empathy. Uh, and I think that collectively, those of us on this side need to be out of empathy because what we're seeing happening to us requires further action and for us to be more active if we're going to stop what is trying to happen, or if we're not careful, it will happen. Christine, what's going on? Greetings, everyone. You set your notifications since yesterday and still late. I will catch. Yeah, please catch the replay. Um, so I'm going to end with this. I think I said this at the very beginning. First of all, thank all of you. I am going to go on my normal summer sabbatical. I will be gone until sometime in August, mid-August. As I mentioned, we do a lot of traveling during the summer. I need to take a break anyway. I need to sort of recoup all that, but I will be back. One of the last things that I mentioned to one of the people who made a comment was that in the fall when we come back, I think our discussions will have more uh, politics involved, more cultural things, more social cultural issues, more social economic issues. Certainly, it's going to be based around religion because that's what this channel is about. But I think that there is a direct connection to all those other issues. And at the very least, there's an indirect connection. I think that we need to do a better job of tying those things together. I say that because I think that Some people respond better to saying, okay, how does this affect me from a social economic standpoint? How does this affect me from a political standpoint? And so we want to continue to grow this movement and wake people up. We need to do a better job of connecting religion and the issues with religion to the things that affect them every day, which is the social economic issues, are the political issues, which are the cultural issues. And so I think we're going to do more of that in the fall and have those discussions. But don't worry, we will always be centered on religion and the issues and the problems with organized religion on this channel. We're just going to become more expansive in our dialogue and our conversations. So with that being said, I thank all of you. I certainly enjoyed it. I appreciate all of you. We don't have this program without you. And so please come back in August and the fall, and we will continue to do this and continue to grow this channel. You all be safe. Enjoy your summer. Have a good time. Be safe. Enjoy travel. And we will be back in August. Thank you so much, all of you.